Hello and welcome to Books and Beyond. I'm your host, Jimmy Bennett, and Books and Beyond is the show where we try to help people personify their aspirations. I want to give a quick shout out before we start to CAPA, the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association. There's 3 chapters in the state. Our chapter, the Southeastern Connecticut chapters, we meet on Monday nights, every third Monday night of the month at 6:30. We're doing Zoom right now, but we're really hoping things calm down here when COVID's finally sort of getting to the end. We'll have some in-person meetings. And anybody who has anything to do with the written word or interested in writing, I strongly suggest that you look us up and come attend a few meetings because it's a great network and it just gives you a lot of good ideas and motivation. So anyways, I have a really nice show, great show today actually. A friend of mine, Greg Gilmartin, is on today. Greg is the author of 3 books, another one coming. And we'll get to those in just a minute. But first, you've got a pretty interesting background, and I'd like to ask you about that a little bit.
What do you want to know? Some of it's secret. No.
Yeah.
Well, I was born at a very young age and then realized I didn't know very much. Yeah, you know, I grew up in New York City, Brooklyn, right in the shadow of Coney Island, really. And I didn't know it at the time, but, 40 years later, that played a big role because 2 of my books, at least, relate to Coney Island and some of the locations there. But, I was really a sports guy, into games, baseball, golf, football. My father was a big athlete and an umpire. And so that was my focus. And I didn't think much about writing, hardly thought much about reading. But I did read, had a great imagination. And following getting to the point where sports wasn't going to be my primary game, I started thinking about writing, and I think it was 9th grade where I wrote my first essay for some reason. And I realized you can make up a little bit of a story about your life, about what you might be thinking about, and things that you've seen and the people that you've run across. And
Right.
That evolved, but work always got in the way. There was this need, obviously, to make some money. And so I had a long career in radio that went to television. And then I went from there to video production. And, that's kind of where I evolved until now. I'm an older guy and semi-retired. And I've been spending much more time writing. So
Right.
it's all the while words and images have been a part of it, but it's just been in different forms, either just talking about it, showing the pictures, and now I'm writing about it, creating the word pictures on the page.
And you're a big sailor, too. You like to sail.
What's that?
Sail,
Yeah. You said seller for a second. I'm
no,
going, what?
sailor.
Big seller?
Yeah.
Wait, who's that? Yeah, sailing. It's a funny story, and I mentioned it in my latest book, but in 1975, I've been working up in Oneonta, New York. Oneonta State College happened to have, Oneonta had 2 of the top college soccer teams in the country, Oneonta State and Hartwick College. And I was doing play-by-play on the local radio station. So they went on to the national finals. And that led me to get a job with the North American Soccer League with the Tampa Bay Rowdies in 1975. So I went down there and, I was going to be the play-by-play guy in Tampa, and I was all excited, going to be a professional broadcaster. Here, Vince Scully, watch out, And the first thing we did was have a big public gathering with the media, and they had a small sailboats, Sunfish. They had 6 of them, and they threw us all in them, and we had a race, competition. And in the end, through a series of eliminations, it was me and the owner of the team that were in the finals. Well, I had no idea what I was doing. He beat me pretty handily, but I was hooked on sailing, and I've been sailing ever since. And that has become really the passion in my life, owning sailboats, sailing, racing. I've been always a competitive guy. So the racing part led to race management. And now I'm one of the race officials in the U.S. sailing, and you're busy with it all summer long.
Right.
It's a great thing because what you're doing is you're laying out the course and you're setting the game up for everybody else to come in and participate and compete.
Now, when you do you think your sailing is what got you into writing? Or or was that just a focus?
It became something that I wrote about because I studied sailing. But the thing about sailboat racing is that you're working with a team all the time. It's not just one person. There's usually 3, 6, 8 people on a boat, depending on the size of the boat. And, you know, it requires a lot of skill, and it requires a lot of doing things at certain times, reading the wind and knowing when to adjust the sails. And humans doing things that require specific moments of action based on decision sometimes make them do stupid things, and they do dumb things. And sometimes they do very smart things. And the whole idea of building a team and creating this cohesion and going through the mistakes, that creates stories.
Yep.
Oh, you should have done that, you could have done that, and then, oh, look what it did to the competition, and so on and so forth. So my first book, Crew, is about a sailboat crew that is involved in a situation that they had no control over. Somebody tries to kill the owner of their boat. In fact, succeeds. And that became sailing and the people who were on the crew and how they react to the things that happen to them that they had no control over. Then they say, wait a minute, like with Mother Nature, you don't have control of Mother Nature completely, but you try to adjust and do things that will help you take advantage of what Mother Nature offers. So, I mean, if I can make that a metaphor, that's kind of led to the first book and that story of how this crew gets together and tries to find out why was our owner killed and what can we do to solve this problem.
Wow, that's so. We have a video. Frank will be running it while we talk.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
Which would be good.
This is a video which really came from my second book, and this is where Coney Island came in. And again, we have a situation where an individual, he does some sailing, but he's more of a computer guy who happens to work at a local submarine manufacturing company in New London. Who could that be? And the image that happens to be up there right now, people might recognize is the kind of the face of Coney Island and the steeplechase and the history of Coney Island, which is very dear to my heart because I grew up literally about a half a mile from Coney Island. So what I went is tied in Coney Island with Block Island, and there you see a picture of the Southeast Light in its original location before it was moved in the early 90s. And that story tied in with submarines. And what you have is Spy Island is the name of this book. And it's a story about a guy who, he's just a 30-ish kind of guy who likes to drink, he likes to gamble, he likes to chase women. What could go wrong?
Right.
He ends up at Brighton Beach, which is right next to Coney Island. There's a Russian enclave there. The Russian mafia is running a game. He gets tied up in a card game. They know he's coming. They know where he works. And they set him up so that he ends up owing them a bunch of money. And now classic Spy 101, how do you recruit a spy? You bring him in because he owes you money and you better do this. So he has to go steal a secret from the manufacturer. And he does. He steals the secret, and much to his regret, but he doesn't want to get beat up. And his whole cast of characters, both on the Russian side and his group of people that he hangs out with, he decides to run away to Block Island, where he figures he can hide out because he happens to be a sailor and he's been sailing around Block Island forever, as I have. So that's kind of where he ends up. And then, of course, the secret that he has, which is a new way for communicating, a submarine able to communicate underwater using lasers, because right now subs can't when they're really deep. They still got to come to the surface to communicate with command.
Right.
Well, now they can do it from deep down with this new invention. So the world wants it. So the word gets out through the intelligence community that the Russians are chasing after this guy who stole this thing. So now all of a sudden the French get involved, the English get involved, the Australians get involved, the North Koreans get involved, and before you know it, you've got a bunch of spies all going to Block Island. And that's kind of where it all
That
comes
is
to a
great.
fun conclusion.
That is great.
Oh, and wouldn't you know it, he meets a young Russian waitress who happens to be working at a local tavern.
So when you're writing now, I think this is great because not only you're writing about stuff you know about and that you experience,
Right.
and I love the way you tied in the local manufacturer, submarine manufacturer,
Right.
And you know what I mean. I mean, all these opportunities are around here, and what I love about the idea is like it's something that could have happened, even if it didn't happen, or maybe it did. I don't know, but it could have happened, and that's what I think makes it fascinating. When you write, do you feel like does it just sort of flow? Is it easy for you? Does it sort of flow out, or do you have epiphanies that, you know?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it flows and sometimes it does not.
Right.
And you know, they call it writer's block, and there's a lot of writers suggest that it's not a writer's block, it's just something else going on, and you got to refocus your mind.
Right.
But the key, I think, to get through that particular thing is just write something.
Right.
Write something. You know, it's interesting, you talk about whether these things actually turn out. I have some friends who work at EB, and we chat, and you know, they haven't told me any secrets by any means, but when I was in the Air Force, I was involved with some secret stuff, and it dealt with the Russians, and there was a lot of things that a lot of people didn't know that the government was involved in. And the technology is being researched. Well, if I'm hearing publicly that it's being researched, I want to believe that on the non-public side, where the real secrets are, it's been researched.
Right.
And it's possibly been developed.
Right.
Maybe it's not fine-tuned to the point where, you know, they're going to publicize it, but it's out there. The technology is available. And the other aspect was, in the book, I built a whole new barn for the new submarines that were coming in to be outfitted and refitted. And I woke up one morning and drove by, and geez, they're building a new barn.
Yeah,
right?
I saw that. Yeah.
So that, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. But yeah, sometimes it works out. With Block Island, I've spent a lot of time on Block Island. I've been sailing there 30 years. And what I write about is what I've either experienced or know that it could happen.
Yep.
There's a helicopter pilot in one of my stories. A friend of mine's a helicopter pilot. So I have access to the kind of information that I myself, not a helicopter pilot,
Right.
but I can see what he does, I can hear what he does,
Right.
and then I can write about it as if maybe I was there. So
Yeah, I see. When I write, well, number one, I write 100 years in the past.
yeah, okay,
And, I don't know any of these people personally or, of course, I've been up to Gillette's Castle quite a bit now
Sure.
and stuff. But so in a lot of ways, for me, I just sort of go as I can make things up as I go. You know what I mean? It's sort of like I can make a town that fits what I need for a town.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Using Block Island stuff, do you try to be very accurate with places and
Yes,
spots and stuff like that?
absolutely. I try to be as accurate as I can. In the early 90s, I had the rare opportunity that one of the couple of the guys who were sailing with us on a boat at Block Island Race Week were involved with the company that moved the Southeast Light. You might remember the Southeast Light in the 93, I think it was, got moved back about 300 yards because it was about to fall into the water.
Right.
And there was a couple of pictures like that. And the details and the big picture that I have of it, that actual process, and there's a video out there too, created this idea, well, what would happen if all of a sudden that operation ran out of money and they had to stop? So now you got a half-completed deal with a hole in the ground, and that just worked out to be a good place for my guy to hide out.
Right.
Which he heard about from the woman who cooks him his breakfast when he goes to his local tavern or his local breakfast joint.
Right.
Which, I have a friend like that who,
Yeah.
passes on tidbits,
Yep.
chatter, and you just tie it in.
See, I like that. I like the idea of being able to, even when I do the things at Gillette's Castle, I try to make it as accurate as possible. So if somebody goes, personally, I have not set foot on Block Island. I haven't drawn a sober breath on Block Island in a long, long time. Okay, since I was a kid.
Right.
I keep telling myself I have to go back there straight sober sometime.
Right.
You know what I mean? We just always drank our way out there, drank the night through, and then stumbled back to the boat and, sailed back with a hangover. I mean, that was my Block Island experiences.
And if you can remember what you did, that becomes part of the good story.
Yeah, I probably would have some stories if I could remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the time, it was just trying not to fall in the water on the dock.
Exactly. And you're lucky because some people have.
Yeah. Yeah, so but you've had a lot of experience out there sailing around.
Right.
And there's a lot of races, right? Offshore, when's that?
Well, the Block Island Race Week is every other year. The Stone
Okay.
Tristle Club has done that. So I've been able to race in probably a dozen of those, as well as been on the race committee for a few of them. And so you go out there for a week, and not only do you just go out there and experience, before you go out, especially when we had a boat or I was racing with other people, you studied it because you're racing in a very fickle area where the currents are swirling in different ways, and they have a very much of a direct impact on your sailboat ability. The tactics you decide to go, should I go this way or that way? Where's the wind going to be in the afternoon? That kind of thing. And
Yep.
if you're going to set a race course, you want to make sure you don't set a race course that has nothing to do with where the wind's coming from.
Right.
They must be tied in geographically. So you're studying it and you're aware of it, and then it becomes just a part of your. Gee, I really like it out here.
Right. Yeah.
So I love it here, and I learn it, and I've been here long enough where you can pick out the parts that, I've been there.
Yep.
Shouldn't go there.
Yeah. Vaguely remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you do a lot of technical talk about sailing in your books? I mean, do you?
Yes.
Like if an average person, I'm sure, right, would understand what you're talking about.
I try to make it understandable, but sailing has its own language.
Right.
Starboard, port are just a few of the things,
Yeah.
Pick up the guy. Which guy? The goddamn guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are parts of the boat that you become intimate with and familiar with in terms of that's how you talk. Watch out for the lift. There's a shift coming in from the right. What does that mean? Well, the current is going to be ebbing here.
Right.
And what does that mean? If it goes this way around the rock, that's one thing, but that rock may push it going the other direction.
Right.
So there is a language to it. So you've got to be careful how you describe it. I do get non-sailors who will read the book and will say, you lost me a little bit there. But it's like sometimes you have to be very sailing specific.
Right.
Because you're sailing.
Yep.
It's like, flying an airplane.
Right.
You want to talk about the aerodynamics of the airplane a little bit.
Right.
To at least create the environment.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, that's I have done leisurely sailing, and I am not usually not the sailor. I'm pull that rope. Sit
Right.
there, don't touch anything.
Excuse me, pull that line.
The line. There you go.
Right. The only rope is the one that's attached to the
Yeah.
bell.
Yeah.
On the.
So I find it interesting though, fascinating. Especially living here on the shoreline.
Yeah.
You see a lot of beautiful boats.
Sure.
Come flying by. Do you have a boat?
I do not have a boat now. I'm a parasite of the rich and famous.
Good.
Called a pot raff.
Yep.
And that means that I go on other people's boats.
Right.
Now that I'm in what we call race management, I'm usually on power boats, going out on a fairly large boat, and we set up the race course from
Right.
there. But I'm a member of the Mystic River Mudheads. I've
Yes.
been for over 30 years, and off soundings as well. And lots of boats out there.
Yep.
Our focus is racing. So when you get there, you've got different classes of boats, but they're all going to be competitive. And they're all attempting to win a trophy of some sort or or win the bragging rights.
Right, the bragging rights.
Right.
Which
So-
I know is big among the sailing crowd.
Right. It can be. It can be.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who don't. Who cares about this? But the owners care. We give away. We just had the Off Soundings annual dinner. We gave away, I don't know, probably 30 trophies over a period of, because we had a 2-year deal because of COVID. We
Yeah.
had to skip a year. But people pick up their trophies, and they put them on a mantle
Yep.
somewhere, and they say, "Hey, I did this."
You're all back in full swing now, right? After the
Yeah,
pandemic and all
our
that,
plan
you
is
guys are-
this year we're planning going full swing. Off Soundings will be at Block Island in the spring in June for 2 races, and then in the fall we go over to Greenport and Gardner's Bay, again 2 days, 2 races, and then they'll be they're going to Newport this year. Newport to Bermuda will be the Storm Tristle Club. There's over 220 boats there, and that's the second largest entries they've ever had in the history of that event. So there is an interest reopening, coming back. The Mudheads have been sailing very well. We went right through COVID. We sailed. We got permission from the state to go as long as we wore masks. And, you're on a sailboat. It's hard to do your social distancing.
Right.
But we said we'd wear masks, and who's going to come after us on the water
Yeah,
anyway?
you're out there. Yeah, you're outside anyways. Yeah.
So the Mudheads will be starting literally in 3 weeks, and we'll be back hopefully a full summer, 16 Wednesday nights of racing, and then every weekend during the summer there's an event by a different yacht club.
Oh, okay.
So, there's about 100 boats that participate at various times
Yeah.
intensely, and that's 6 or 7 people on a boat, so you get a whole little community
Right.
that's doing the same thing.
Wow.
And
Well, that's good to hear, yeah.
That's what I got to write about in my 3rd book.
Yep.
Yeah, can't sail in jail.
Yep. The Mudheads. I remember the Mudheads from my time at the Seahorse. Wednesday nights they all be down after the racing.
The
Yes,
Seahorse.
sir. I know. I know. That could be a whole nother show.
Yes, I know.
So let's talk about your 3rd book. Actually, we have a video. If Frank can pull that up for us.
Yeah, just to give a
Yeah.
feeling for sailing. And
Yeah.
we talk about, this is Off Soundings, and that was, again, it's part of the community. And the goal of this video here is just to show kind of what happens when a bunch of boats get together. It looks like organized chaos, and it is in many ways, but it is very organized at the start. Everybody goes through a narrow starting line. They have a clock that they have to time everything out to. And then you can see there's a lot of complications in terms of trying to fly the sails, depending on where the wind's coming from. In this case, they're on a fairly close reach. Looks like a little more downwind. So the adjustments on the sails constantly, that's all that's powering you, is the push on the sail or a little bit of a lift that comes when you're sailing close to the wind. And, you got a whole range of people, different ages, men and women. More women now than ever are sailing it, which is a great thing. And this is where you put a team together, and they have to go out. It looks like it's blowing about 12 to 15 here, which is a good day to go sailing. Now, that guy is just didn't get ready for a jibe, or maybe possibly they're in a puff, and or they're surfing down a wave, and he's bringing the main in. And you get a little bit of a heel going, and you're constantly adjusting. So in this environment, for my 3rd book, we have a true story, which actually did take place, and then I've embellished it and changed it. But the basic thread of the story is a simple one. Sailboat crew racing, a guy smuggling marijuana, and a couple of immigrants trying to make a go of it with a gas and go gas operation.
Wow.
And those 3 tracks meet because the smuggler buys a boat for the racers, and they go racing. The law gets involved. They chase in the smuggler, and the Albanians get involved because they also are helping the smuggler because they need money because their gas station's not doing so well. But then all of a sudden, something happens on I-91, on 95, and everybody's going up to their gas station. So that plays out. Many characters, all on different paths. As I say, they're all chasing the American dream, if you will. And in the end, it all ends up at a place called the Seahorse.
That's great. Oh, wow. I can't wait for that one.
Yeah.
We got to move along here kind of quick. You have another book coming out.
Castle Fires, it's coming. It's being written right now. I'm hoping June, maybe.
Okay, good.
But it basically, short story. I call it Agatha Christie meets Michael Crichton. You've got an inventor. Unfortunately, he dies, and he bequeaths everything, multimillionaire, to his daughter, but his daughter has never met him.
Oh.
Which is explained carefully.
Okay.
And she comes and suddenly she's in charge of this empire, and it deals with a castle that is in Connecticut, and an area where they are in a very small town. And again, characters. You got brothers. One's the resident trooper. The other one's kind of the quasi-mayor of this small town. And they want to bring a mall into this remote area so that people will come and make it a tourist destination so it'll blow up. And of course, that's going to affect everything from the environment to just the way the people, who's living there, who comes by. And the young woman, 30, suddenly she's gone from just being a little bit of a scientific research assistant to being in charge of a multinational, multi-million-dollar group of companies, has got to find herself in the middle of it.
Well, I like that. I like the plot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to check that out because seems like you're stepping away from the water here a little bit too.
Stepping completely away
You're
from the
right.
water.
Yeah,
We're
which
doing
is-
more auto racing, and as hobbies.
Yeah.
Classic cars will be involved. The castle is the center of the attention.
Yeah.
And that kind of creates animosity. Plus, there's a haunted apple orchard,
Oh.
which ties in some history of Connecticut, a massacre of Native Americans, and so on. So it should be fun and interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that to come out. Now, I guess we got a couple minutes left here. One thing I want to talk about is the event we're going to do.
Yeah.
Greg has a table at the Essex Boat Show.
It's a Connecticut boat show.
Connecticut Boat Show.
Yeah, coming up on the 29th, the 30th, and May 1st. It'll be at Essex Marina, which is the little island marina, which is right in downtown Essex.
Yep.
And it's a fun place to go to. And, if you're into boats, they're going to have boats out on the docks, as well as various booths for people to sell boating type of
Right.
materials and, accessories and
Right.
things like that. It's for the boat show, but it's for people who are looking to buy boats, but also people interested in boats.
Right.
And it's Essex. I mean, you
Yeah.
go to Essex, it's a good day there.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful.
So we'll
beautiful
set up.
down there on the river.
You're going to be there selling some
Yeah.
of your books, and I'm going to sell some of mine. Rose Young, a friend
Right.
of ours.
Yep.
She'll be there selling her murder mysteries about New London.
Good.
So it'd be great.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. It was great, very interesting. I can't wait to read the next book coming out. And we will see everybody down in Essex just a few weeks from now. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for tuning in to Books and Beyond. I'm Jimmy Bennett, your host, and we'll see you next time.